Nobody predicted this one. Not the researchers who have spent years building the theoretical framework around what Oak Island contains and who built it. Not the engineers who have mapped the flood tunnel system and modeled the hydraulic behavior of the island's defenses with the precision that modern computational tools make possible. Not the historians who have followed the Templar thread across archives on multiple continents and who thought they had a reasonably complete picture of what the physical evidence was going to look like when it finally came to the surface. Not even the team, because what emerged from the Oak Island excavation this season was not the next logical step in a sequence that everyone could see coming. It was something lateral, something that arrived from a direction that the existing framework did not account for, something that required everyone involved to stop and recalibrate not just what they thought they knew about this specific find, but what they thought they knew about this island and everything buried within it. Game-changing is a phrase that gets used too easily and too often in the context of this search, applied to finds that are genuinely significant, but that represent confirmation of existing theories rather than the kind of discovery that rewrites the theories themselves. What the team found this season is the real version of that phrase, the version that earns it. A discovery that no one saw coming and that changes the game in the most literal sense, by revealing that the game being played on Oak Island is larger and more complex and more extraordinary than anyone, in 230 years of searching, had fully understood. If you have been watching this channel through every twist this story has taken, then you already know that when we say game-changing, we mean it. So settle in and drop a comment telling this community where in the world you are watching from tonight. And if this is your first time here, hit subscribe because you just arrived at exactly the right moment. And tonight, this community gets to be part of the moment when the Oak Island story moves in a direction that nobody plotted on any map, and nobody included in any theory, and that the island itself seems to have been holding back specifically for this point in the search, when enough groundwork had been laid and enough understanding had been built that the discovery could be properly recognized for what it is, rather than misidentified or misinterpreted or filed away as something to be revisited when the framework caught up to it. The framework has caught up. The discovery has arrived. And what it means is going to take the rest of this video to begin to explain. The context that makes this discovery so significant is the context of what the team thought they were dealing with coming into this season. Because the distance between that expectation and what actually emerged is the measure of how game-changing this find actually is. Coming into Season 13, the team had a working model of Oak Island that was the most sophisticated and the most evidence-based model the search had ever operated with. The primary shaft of the money pit, the flood tunnel system protecting it, the swamp as a man-made feature, the boulder and Lot 8 as a sealing mechanism over a secondary shaft. The alignment between the swamp pathway and Nolan's Cross as evidence of island-wide geometric planning, and the accumulating physical evidence pointing toward a medieval European origin for the original construction. That model was well supported, internally consistent, and guiding the excavation in directions that were producing real results. It was also incomplete in a way that nobody fully appreciated until this season's discovery made the incompleteness visible. Because the working model was built around a single organizing assumption that turned out to be wrong, or at least insufficiently large. The assumption that the primary purpose of the Oak Island construction was depositional, that whoever built this place came here to hide something, and that the engineering was in service of that hiding. The assumption that the island was, at its core, a vault. What the game-changing discovery of this season suggests is that the island was not only a vault, it was also something else. Something that the depositional framework, focused as it necessarily was on what was buried and how to retrieve it, was not built to see. The discovery itself emerged from work in an area of the island that previous excavations had investigated without producing the kind of results that would have made it a priority for sustained attention. The team returned to it this season as part of the systematic survey work that the island-wide geometric analysis had flagged as potentially significant. Not because anyone had a specific prediction about what would be found there, but because the geometry said the location mattered and the team had learned to trust what the geometry said. What the ground produced was not a shaft. It was not a tunnel entrance or a buried artifact or any of the categories of find that the existing framework was looking for. It was structural, an arrangement of worked stone and timber at a depth and in a configuration that the team's analysts spent considerable time simply trying to categorize before the categorization became clear. What they were looking at was the remains of a chamber, not a depositional chamber, not a vault designed to hold and protect something brought from elsewhere, but a working space, a room built into the ground of Oak Island with the same engineering quality and the same deliberate permanence that characterizes every other constructed feature on the island, but designed not for storage, but for occupation, for use, for people to be in and to do something in over a period of time. The implications of that categorization are what make this discovery game-changing in the truest sense. A working chamber on Oak Island means that whoever built this place did not simply arrive, construct the depositional infrastructure, deposit what they brought, seal everything, and leave. It means they stayed. It means that Oak Island was not just a destination for the operation, but a base, a functioning site where people lived and worked for a period of time that the construction of a permanent underground working space implies was substantial. And a base is a fundamentally different thing from a vault. A vault is a one-time operation, a single visit for the purpose of concealment followed by a departure that was intended to be permanent. A base implies repeated use, ongoing purpose, a reason to return that goes beyond the initial deposit. It implies that whatever was brought to Oak Island and buried here was not simply hidden and forgotten, but was intended to be accessed, worked with, referred to, and maintained by people who plan to be here regularly enough to need a permanent working space. That changes everything about what the original purpose of the Oak Island operation was. Not just a hiding place for treasure that someone planned to retrieve when conditions permitted. A functioning installation, built for sustained use, that served purposes that the depositional framework was never designed to account for, and that the discovery of this working chamber is only beginning to reveal. The Templar connection, which the physical evidence of this island has been building across multiple seasons of excavation and analysis, takes on a different character in the light of this discovery. The Templars were not only treasure keepers, they were an institution with ongoing operational requirements, with documents that needed to be maintained and studied, with knowledge that needed to be preserved and transmitted, with functions that did not cease simply because the order had been suppressed in Europe and its members had relocated to the most remote defensible location they could reach. If the people who came to Oak Island intended to continue operating as an institution, rather than simply to hide what they had brought and disappear, then the construction of a working chamber alongside the depositional infrastructure is exactly what you would expect them to build. It also means that what the island contains may be considerably more than the physical treasure that the traditional narrative of this search has always centered on. An institution that was operating here, that had a working space and the ongoing activities that such a space implies, would have produced records, documents, the kind of accumulated institutional knowledge that the Templars were specifically known for preserving across generations, and that the suppression of 1307 would have given them every reason to bring to their most secure location. The game that has been changing on Oak Island this season is not just the game of where the treasure is buried. It is the game of what treasure actually means in the context of what this island was built to be. The team is processing the implications of the working chamber discovery alongside the ongoing excavation work that the rest of the season demands. And the combination of the analytical effort and the physical work is producing a pace of development that the search has rarely sustained for this long. The island is still resisting in the ways it always resists, the water and the depth and the engineering that was built to last indefinitely and has. None of that has changed. But the resistance feels different now. The way resistance feels different when you finally understand the full shape of what you are up against, rather than just the parts of it that previous investigations had mapped. A game-changing discovery that no one saw coming has a way of doing that, of making the thing you are trying to do feel suddenly clearer, the obstacle suddenly more specific, and the destination suddenly more real than it has ever been before. The destination is real, the working chamber is real. And what was done in that chamber, and what was stored alongside it, and what the full picture of this island looks like now that the depositional framework has been expanded to include the possibility of an ongoing institutional presence, is what the rest of this search is now equipped to find out. What comes next you do not want to miss.